Chosen one, anchor your spirit to what I am about to say right now. That name sitting in the back of your mind, the one you keep trying to push away, stop fighting it. The enemy has been working overtime this week for one reason and one reason only. He knows what God is about to confirm. It all ends today. The confusion, the second guessing, the back and forth in your own mind. But hear this clearly, because this changes everything. It is not ending because of time. It is ending because of what you have already walked through. Think back to that moment this week when you almost said something, almost reached out, almost let yourself believe it was real, but you pulled back. You told yourself you were being foolish. You told yourself you had imagined it. You did not know it then. But that restraint was not rejection. That pause was preparation. You did not sabotage what God ordered. You protected it. The Most High blocked everything else competing for your attention today just to bring you this verdict. So lock in, because I am about to read the decree that silences every doubt you have carried about this person. You did not find this recording by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. God did. This is a divine appointment scheduled before the foundations of the earth. You are standing at a threshold between the life you have been living alone in your questions and the life that was always meant to include this person beside you. Stay until the very last second of this message, because in the next few minutes, I am going to hand you the divine verdict that confirms what your spirit already knows. I am going to walk you through the exact signs heaven has been planting in your path that you have been calling coincidence. And at the end, I am going to give you a declaration that seals your faith over this connection and silences the voice that has been telling you to let go. Do not click away. Your future self is begging you to stay, because if you leave now, you leave before the confirmation arrives. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. The atmosphere has not just been uncertain, it has been loud in a strange way. Not the kind of loud that comes from noise, but the kind that comes from questions you cannot stop turning over in your mind. Maybe you saw something this week, a number, a song, a place, and that person's name hit your chest before you could stop it. Maybe you were lying in bed last night, staring at the ceiling, replaying a conversation from weeks ago, wondering if you read it wrong, wondering if you said too much or said too little. Or maybe you woke up at 3:0 inches the morning this week with your heart racing, not from a nightmare, but from a dream that felt too real to dismiss and too sacred to tell anyone about. You feel suspended, like you are standing in a corridor between a door that has already closed behind you and one that has not opened yet. And in that corridor, the silence has been deafening. And in this suspension, the enemy has started whispering a very specific lie. Listen to your thoughts right now. He is telling you that the reason this connection feels uncertain is because you are wrong about it. He is replaying that moment when you pulled back, that moment when you did not say what was in your heart, that moment when you chose silence over vulnerability because the fear was louder than the faith. The accuser is telling you that was the moment you lost it. He is telling you that your hesitation was rejection in disguise, that God would not have let it feel this complicated if it were truly ordained, and that the confusion is your answer. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Proverbs 19:21 says, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the purpose of the Lord that prevails." Listen to that promise. It is the purpose of the Lord that prevails. Not the enemy's interference, not your mistakes, not your silence, not your timing, not your fear. The purpose of God over this connection does not require your perfection to survive. It requires His sovereignty, and His sovereignty is not in question. The enemy is trying to convince you that your hesitation rewrote the ending. He wants you to believe that because you were not bold enough, not consistent enough, not healed enough, you have disqualified yourself from what God already ordained. But that is a deception. You are not too late. You are in position. The heaviness you feel around this person is not confusion sent to turn you away. It is the weight of something real. It is the pressure of something eternal pressing against the surface of your ordinary life, trying to break through. You do not feel this way about everyone. You know that. And that knowing is not weakness. That knowing is evidence. You think that moment when you pulled back was your mistake. You think your silence was surrender. But let me reframe your reality right now. That was not you losing your courage. That was God protecting the timing. Because some doors are not meant to be forced open, they are meant to be walked through in the fullness of the appointed hour. And, chosen one, that hour is now. Some messages don't just inform, they activate. If something stirred deep in your spirit just now, you may be ready to receive the chosen one's blueprint. This sacred guide reveals the 8 divine patterns behind your calling, your suffering, and your destiny. It also comes with the full audiobook, so you can absorb it during prayer, rest, or quiet moments with God. And for those called to speak His truth, you'll also receive Activating Your Prophet Mantle, a powerful bonus ebook for those carrying a prophetic assignment. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. Now let's go deeper into what God is actually doing here. We are standing at a precipice, not just of a new day, but of a new understanding of divine alignment in our lives, especially concerning the deepest connections we seek. For too long, we have operated under assumptions, guided by the clamor of our emotions rather than the quiet conviction of the Spirit. This moment is an invitation to recalibrate, to shift our gaze from the surface ripple to the deep, underlying current of God's intentional design for us. He is not merely orchestrating events, He is meticulously crafting our inner landscape to prepare us for the external manifestations of His promises. Because here's what most people miss when they feel that kind of pull toward someone. They mistake the intensity of the feeling for confirmation. It's a common human tendency to equate a powerful emotional surge with divine direction, as if the louder the heart beats, the clearer God's voice becomes. They think because it's strong, a whirlwind of emotions sweeping through their very being, it must be right. They rationalize that because it hurts to think about losing them, because the thought of separation feels like a vital organ being excised. It must be God holding them in place, anchoring this person as their predestined partner. But intensity, my friends, is not the same as divine appointment. A powerful current can pull a ship off course just as easily as it can propel it forward. The strength of the pull does not guarantee the right destination. Desperation, that gnawing ache born of unmet needs or past wounds, is not the same as discernment, which is the calm, steady knowing of the Spirit. And the enemy, a master manipulator of human weakness, knows exactly how to dress up an attachment, a mere clinging born of fear or familiarity, in the glorious, irresistible language of destiny. He will whisper sweet nothings of soulmate or meant to be into the ears of your longing heart, so that you'll hold on to something God never sanctioned, never blessed, something that will ultimately hinder your true path, and, tragically, you'll call it faith while you're doing it, convinced that your struggle to maintain this connection is a testament to your spiritual fortitude. This is a subtle yet devastating deception, trapping souls in cycles of emotional turbulence under the guise of divine will. This is where the real work begins, not in the relationship, not in attempting to manipulate or control another person's journey, not in ceaseless striving to mold an external connection into your imagined ideal. No, the real, transformative work begins in you. It starts within the sacred confines of your own spirit, in the quiet chambers of your heart, in the landscape of your unaddressed wounds and unexamined beliefs. Before God entrusts you with a partnership of spiritual weight, He first calls you to stewardship of your own soul. The outer reflects the inner. A stable and whole outer connection can only be built upon a foundation of inner stability and spiritual wholeness. The question God is asking right now isn't whether this particular person, the one who occupies your thoughts or stirs your emotions, is precisely meant for you. That question, while seemingly urgent, often masks a deeper, more profound inquiry. The real question is whether you are actually ready to receive what's truly meant for you, whether your spiritual vessel has been prepared, whether your discernment is keen, or whether you've been mistaking what's familiar for what's faithful. There's a chasm of difference between someone who simply fits the ache inside you, a puzzle piece that momentarily fills a void, and someone who profoundly fits the expansive, divine calling on your life. One provides a temporary balm, a soothing comfort that merely fills a wound, allowing you to bypass the deeper healing work. The other, the true covenant partner, is not just a balm but a catalyst. They walk alongside a purpose, amplifying your divine assignment, challenging you to grow, and reflecting God's love back to you in a way that deepens your walk with Him. And until you, with divine clarity and spiritual fortitude, can truly tell the difference between these two, until you can distinguish the superficial comfort from the substantive covenant, you will unfortunately keep choosing ease, convenience, or emotional resonance disguised as true divine partnership. You will opt for the illusion of belonging over the arduous but ultimately liberating path of genuine alignment. Think about what happened with Isaac and Rebekah, a timeless narrative woven into the fabric of Genesis, offering profound spiritual insights into God's matchmaking. God didn't send Rebekah to Isaac because Isaac was merely lonely, pining away in the desert after the loss of his mother, Sarah. While his grief was undoubtedly real and his need for companionship understandable, God's motivations transcend human emotional states. He sent her because the covenant He made with Abraham, a covenant of generations and nations, required a continuation. It was a matter of divine lineage and destiny. Abraham's servant, Eliezer, didn't search for someone who would simply ease Isaac's grief or soothe his loneliness after losing his mother. His quest was far more elevated than mere emotional comfort. He searched for someone whose character, revealed through her actions and spirit, bore the unmistakable imprint of divine alignment, a woman chosen by God Himself to carry the sacred covenant forward. And when Rebekah, with open heart and diligent hands, offered water not only to the weary servant, but also, without prompting, to all his thirsty camels, that wasn't just a sweet gesture of romance. It was a powerful, undeniable revelation of her inner spirit, her generosity, her servant's heart, a direct fulfillment of the sign Eliezer had prayed for. It was God speaking through her actions. God wasn't primarily matching feelings or emotional compatibilities in the modern sense. He was matching callings, aligning destinies, connecting two individuals whose lives were both dedicated to the unfolding of His divine purpose. The romance, the natural human connection, grew out of that foundational alignment rather than being the sole determinant. It was a covenant connection first and a personal affection second, a powerful reversal of our often prioritized modern perspective. And this leads us to something most people are not ready to sit with, a truth that can feel uncomfortable but is utterly essential for spiritual growth. The person God has for you will not always, and often will not, be the person your wounds are most attracted to. Read that again. Let it sink deep into the marrow of your spirit. Your wounds, those tender, unhealed places within your soul, have a distinct type. They operate like a magnetic force, unconsciously seeking what's familiar, what echoes old pain. What recreates the emotional terrain of your earliest wounds or past traumas? They pull you towards situations and people that allow you to replay old narratives, giving you yet another opportunity, a misguided and often painful one, to try, again and again, to fix what was broken in you long before this person ever appeared on your horizon. It's not the pure, selfless, life-giving force of love that drives that kind of relentless pull. It's unfinished business. It's the deep, interior work of healing and self-discovery you haven't done yet, wearing the alluring and often deceptive face of the person standing in front of you. It is the subconscious craving for a familiar dynamic, even if that dynamic is ultimately harmful, because the unknown path of true healing feels terrifying. But here's where it goes even deeper, and this is the part that changes everything, shifting our paradigm from earthly desires to heavenly design. God doesn't just want to give you a person to fill a void, to assuage your loneliness, or to simply make you happy in a superficial sense. He wants to give you a partnership that carries weight in the spirit, a connection that is a spiritual powerhouse, a force for good in his kingdom. He's not building a fleeting, saccharine fairy tale, one that crumbles at the first sign of real-world struggle or imperfection. No, he is building a legacy, a lineage of faith, purpose, and impact that extends far beyond your immediate gratification. And true legacy, a partnership that endures and thrives under the weight of divine assignment, requires two people who have diligently, painstakingly done the interior work of surrender. Surrender to God's will, surrender of their own brokenness, surrender of their need for control. It does not require two people who have simply found a comfortable place to hide from their unresolved issues together, creating an echo chamber of mutual avoidance. Some relationships feel undeniably like destiny because they provide an immediate, profound sense of relief. You stop feeling acutely alone. The incessant hum of anxiety quiets down. The relentless longing in your heart momentarily settles. But relief, while pleasant, is not the same as readiness. It can be a temporary cessation of pain without true preparation. And comfort, no matter how appealing, is not the same as covenant. One is based on ease, the other on an unbreakable, God-ordained promise that often demands growth and sacrifice. A covenant partnership is not merely a soft landing place. It is a launching pad for greater purpose, coming up the hidden thing that's been standing like an invisible wall, a silent barrier between you and the real, profound connection God ordained for you. Stay with me, because this is the piece no one talks about, the missing link in so many heartfelt prayers and earnest searches. Before you can truly receive someone who is sent by God, someone who is genuinely aligned with your divine calling and prepared to walk alongside you in purpose, you have to reckon with what you've been doing, or not doing, with your waiting. Because the waiting season, that period of apparent stillness or longing, was never designed to be empty time, a blank space on the calendar of your life. It was, in truth, formation time, a sacred crucible for the forging of your character, the refining of your spirit, and the deepening of your relationship with the divine. And the profound tragedy is that so many people, caught in the throes of their longing and impatience, spend their waiting season chasing after fleeting connections, manipulating circumstances to force an outcome, settling for less than God's best out of fear or exhaustion, or performing for validation and affection, doing everything, tragically, except what the season was designed to produce within them. If you've been filling the silence of your waiting with ceaseless distraction, with noise that prevents you from hearing God's gentle whispers, if you've been merely managing the loneliness, treating it as a problem to be fixed or avoided, rather than allowing God to speak into its depths and transform it into solitude with Him, if you've been meticulously making your own elaborate plans, clutching them tightly, rather than humbly surrendering yours to the vast, perfect blueprint of the divine, then your waiting hasn't been true waiting at all. It's been running in slow motion, a frantic, disguised pursuit that leaves you breathless and unfulfilled, delaying the very blessing you seek because you haven't paused long enough to become the person ready to receive it. Consider the profound example of David. He waited, not passively, not in idle resignation, but actively, dynamically, engaging with God in the wilderness. He served King Saul, enduring rejection and betrayal. He fought Goliath, demonstrating courage and faith. He wrote psalms, pouring out his heart in worship and lament. He cultivated a deep, intimate relationship with God in the lonely, desolate places. He allowed the isolation, the wilderness season, to deepen him, to strip away superficial layers and forge a profound resilience within his spirit, rather than allowing it to destroy him or leave him bitter. And when his kingdom finally came, when the crown was placed upon his head, it didn't come to a man who had merely survived the weight, who had scraped by, bruised and resentful. It came to a man who had been utterly transformed by it, refined in the fires of adversity and deepened in the solitude of communion with God. That's the crucial difference between merely enduring and truly growing. God doesn't delay the blessing of a divine partnership because he's withholding from you, desiring to see you suffer or prove your worth. He delays it, often, because he's lovingly preparing you to carry it, to steward it with wisdom and grace, without that blessing becoming an idol that eclipses your devotion to him, or without it crushing you under its weight because you lack the spiritual musculature to bear it. And if you're truly honest with yourself, and this is the courageous confrontation this sacred moment requires, a turning point for true liberation. There's something you've been holding, clutching with a fierce grip, that you haven't yet surrendered to the benevolent hand of God. It's not merely the person you desire, nor even the earnest, deeply rooted desire itself. Those are natural human inclinations. No, what you've been unwilling to release is the control. It's the intricate, internal narrative you've meticulously written, detailing exactly how this divine connection is supposed to unfold, every scene, every dialogue. It's the rigid timeline you've decided God should adhere to, the precise schedule on which your blessings must appear. It's the highly specific version of this romantic story you've already penned and cast in your mind, and now you're asking God to simply endorse it, to play the role of cosmic stagehand rather than the divine author. And every single time, he doesn't move on your predetermined schedule. Every instance where his ways diverge from your carefully constructed script, you misinterpret it, often painfully, as silence, as absence, as a lack of care, or even punishment. But it's not silence. It's a profound, loving invitation. He's inviting you to release the script, to lay down your pen and trust the master storyteller, to surrender your limited vision for his boundless, perfect narrative. He is asking you to believe that his plot twists are always for your ultimate good, even when they defy your immediate understanding. Here's what's coming next, and I need you to be prepared for it, to gird your spirit, because it's the part that breaks most people open, exposing the tender, vulnerable core of their deepest insecurities and untruths. This is the root of the matter, the hidden spring from which so many relational difficulties flow, the real barrier, the insidious impediment standing between you and the person God has perfectly prepared for you, isn't simply the other person's readiness or their current stage of spiritual development. It isn't merely timing in the abstract sense, a capricious cosmic clock deciding when to chime. It isn't even primarily spiritual warfare, though warfare is unequivocally real and constantly seeks to derail divine connections. No, the most profound, most stubborn barrier lies within. It is your unhealed belief about what you truly deserve. Deep down, beneath the fervent declarations of faith, beneath the confident language of receiving God's promises, there resides a quiet, often unconscious agreement you made with yourself. Perhaps it was forged in the tender years of childhood, shaped by early experiences of neglect or conditional love. Perhaps it was etched into your soul after a profound betrayal, a trust shattered into 1,000 pieces. Or perhaps it crystallized after the last significant relationship fell apart, leaving you feeling discarded and fundamentally unworthy. This agreement, this silent contract with your own perceived inadequacy, told you a lie. That real love, the kind of chosen love, covenant love, the kind that endures and thrives, was reserved for other people, for those seemingly more deserving. It whispered that you, however, would have to work harder for it, earn it through ceaseless effort, prove yourself worthy of its embrace. And so, unknowingly, you've been performing for love, putting on an endless audition, rather than simply receiving it as a freely given gift of grace. You've been striving to earn a role in a play where God already cast you as the beloved protagonist, fully deserving of his perfect plan. That insidious agreement, that lie you inadvertently bought into, has to be broken today. Not tomorrow, not when circumstances change, but in this very moment, by the power of truth and divine intention. Because when you walk into any relationship, no matter how promising it seems on the surface, carrying that unaddressed wound, that silent agreement of unworthiness, you invariably attract what confirms it. Your subconscious, like a homing beacon, will draw to you people who make you earn their affection, who require you to jump through hoops, because your nervous system has been painfully conditioned to read that dynamic as normal, as the expected cost of love. You mistake the arduous effort of chasing and striving for genuine investment. You confuse withholding and emotional distance for value and desirability, believing that what is hard to get must be inherently worth more. You tragically confuse the desperate, anxiety-ridden chase with authentic chemistry, believing that the turbulence is passion. And then, a profound paradox occurs. When someone truly aligned with God's will arrives, someone who simply loves you, consistently, calmly, genuinely, without requiring you to bleed for their attention or contort yourself into an unrecognizable shape, it feels profoundly wrong. It feels unsettlingly boring. It doesn't trigger enough of the familiar emotional highs and lows, the frantic dance of pursuit and withdrawal that your wounded system has been wired to interpret as love. And you, mistaking safety for stagnation, call that a lack of spark, a deficiency in chemistry. But what you're actually experiencing, in that unfamiliar calm, in that steady presence, is the profound, disorienting unfamiliarity of being truly safe, truly seen, and unconditionally loved without effort. It's the unfamiliarity of grace, unsettling precisely because it contradicts every lie you've believed about deserving. That, my friends, is the hidden root. It's not your past relationship, no matter how traumatic. It's not the person who cruelly left, fracturing your heart. It's not even the specific individual you're waiting for now. It's the deep, internal wound, the untruth, that decided what love looks like, what it costs, and what you deserve, long before you were old enough, wise enough, or spiritually mature enough to truly know what authentic, unconditional, divine love actually is. This is the spiritual inheritance you unwittingly carry, shaping your reality. And here's the part you didn't expect, the twist that reveals God's profound grace and understanding. The person God has for you, the true covenant partner, cannot fully reach you, cannot fully connect with you in the depth and purity of God's intention until that foundational wound is at least acknowledged. Not necessarily fully healed. God doesn't require you to be a perfectly complete, finished product, utterly without blemish, before he sends the right person into your life. That would be an impossible standard, for we are all works in progress. But it must be acknowledged, it must be named, brought forth from the shadows of your subconscious into the clear, healing light of God's truth and your own conscious awareness. Because what you refuse to name and face in yourself, what you keep hidden in the dark corners of your being, you will inevitably project onto them. You will mistakenly see rejection where there is merely a need for healthy rest and space. You will perceive abandonment where there is a sacred invitation for personal growth and spiritual autonomy. You will, with painful irony, sabotage the very thing you prayed for, the very divine connection you longed for, because it doesn't resonate with or trigger the familiar ache you've been tragically mistaking for love and passion. You will push away the peace because you're accustomed to the chaos. God wants you to be with this person. He truly does, with an infinite, loving desire that transcends your earthly longings. But more than just being times with times them, He wants you to be fully present when they arrive, not still haunted by the ghosts of those who hurt you in the past, not still performing for approval and validation from a place of insecurity, not still frantically running toward intensity and drama, because stillness, peace, and healthy boundaries feel strangely like loss or disinterest. He wants you whole enough, healed enough in your inner being, to clearly recognize a covenant when it stands right in front of you, without needing it to wound you, to break you, or to replay old traumas to prove its reality and depth. He wants you to discern the quiet strength of true love from the loud clamor of familiar pain. Place your hand over your heart right now, feel the steady rhythm of life within you, and speak this sacred declaration over yourself, allowing its truth to permeate every cell of your being. I release every false agreement I made about what I deserve. I consciously, intentionally, and completely sever the ties to the lie that told me I had to earn love, prove my worthiness, or settle for less than God's best. I release the insidious belief that true love, real connection, or a divine partnership must inherently cost me my peace, require me to sacrifice my authenticity, or demand an endless payment of emotional toll. I release the familiar pain, the accustomed turbulence, the well-worn patterns of striving and seeking, which I have, in my spiritual blindness, been tragically mistaking for passion, for chemistry, for the very essence of deep connection. I declare, with unwavering conviction, that I am being actively prepared, meticulously shaped, and divinely formed, not punished, not delayed out of spite, and not forgotten by the benevolent hand of my Creator. I declare that what God has irrevocably ordained for me, what He has meticulously woven into the fabric of my destiny, cannot be taken by any external force, cannot be delayed by my perceived unworthiness or past mistakes, and certainly cannot be given to someone else, for it bears the unique imprint of my soul. I open my hands, palms upward, in a gesture of complete surrender, and release the tightly held version of this story, the intricate script I have been desperately trying to control, to edit, and to force into existence. And I trust, with a faith that transcends understanding, that what God sends, in His perfect timing and perfect design, will not require me to shrink my spirit, to perform for its acceptance, or to bleed for its continued presence. I am ready, truly and deeply ready, to receive what was always, eternally, divinely mine. Not because I have earned it through striving or effort, but because He, in His boundless grace and wisdom, ordained it from before time began. And I walk forward today, not as a seeker of validation, but as someone who is profoundly seen, intimately known, eternally chosen, and fully loved by the one who created love itself, the very source of all true connection. If this message confirmed something you've been carrying in silence, a truth that resonated deep within your spirit, leave a comment below and tell me what God revealed to you today. Your testimony, your courage to share your journey, might be exactly what someone else needs to hear, to take their next step forward on their own path of divine alignment.